So before I get started, I want to apologize for the audio quality and the lighting and everything. I know it's not as good as it usually is. I am not home right now. This is the best I am able to do at this sort of short notice. So for those of you who don't know, they kind of dropped this on us randomly. The new rank season starts today. As I'm recording this, you'll be seeing this today though, as I upload. And new rank season means it's time for a new ranked primer, so I'm going to be going over the decks that you need to keep in mind as sort of the big ones to watch out for. So deck codes for all of these will be in the description, so you can just click on that and copy paste the deck list immediately. Also caveat, I'm not saying these are the best deck lists for each of these decks. These are just a baseline. You can make changes you see fit. Fundamentally the deck will do the same kind of thing, as long as you're keeping that core shell about the same. Okay, with all that being said, I'm just going to go ahead and talk through some of the stuff. So we'll go through the big four first. These are the big four decks to watch out for. Number one is Green Mask. Now Green Mask has come in pretty much out of the new set and just shot straight to the top. It is reasonably widely agreed upon that this is the best deck right now, and it's really, really powerful. So those of you might remember the sort of stuff that that Purple was doing, where it was like winning the early game tempo and then ramping into the late game, building a really big Andros. That's pretty much the same thing Green does. It wins the early game, it controls the early game, basically it just doesn't fall behind, it ramps as fast as it can, and then it starts dropping this thing, this 9-drop, Martin Ninja Pallades form. This card is insane. I imagine this will be played in Green for a reasonable amount of time, pretty much outside of anything that, pretty much in anything that isn't tree. This card is mental. It's just you read it, when it enters the field or when it morphs, you choose 3 things and switch their state from active to non-active or rest to active. And then whenever one of your opponent's minions, whenever your opponent's minion or force is rested, this gets bigger, and then when it attacks, you can also rest something. So potentially, if your opponent had a board of 4 minions, you drop this, you rest 3 of them, you swing face, you rest the other one. This is now 6 DP, and if you destroyed both forces already, that's killing almost every deck in the game. Just one card, bam, and there's not a great deal they can do about it a lot of the time. So yeah, Green Mask, incredibly strong, probably the number 1 deck to look out for in the current format. The number 2 deck to look out for is going to be Blue Mask, which is also incredibly strong. Basically what happens when Blue Mask plays is you'll be ahead most of the game and you'll be feeling pretty good about yourself, and then they will take 1 turn and they will wipe your whole board and kill you, and you'll have no fucking clue how they did it. And that's basically what it's like to play against Blue Mask. It's insane. You just read the 7 and 8 drops for both these decks and you kind of get an idea of what you're in for. So the 7-drop does not want to load the case. So the 7-drop is when summoned, move all your opponent's minions with the lowest cost into their base in the rest state. This is usually going to move 2+ minions. And when morphed, destroy all your opponent's lowest cost minions, then this minion enters the active state. So, it's got an ability whether you play it from hand or whether you morph into it. And then the 8 cost is, gonna load, please. Oh my god. Come on, just show me the 8 cost. There we go, god. When morphed, destroy all your opponent's minions with the highest cost, then this minion enters the active state. And on your turn, whenever this minion deals damage to your opponent's life, reduce movement by 1. If you do, one of your minions with 2 DP enters the active state. That would be this one. So yeah, crazy, so strong, super fun as well. As with Green Mask, Blue and Green Mask are really, really fun to play. Highly recommend. I haven't played a great deal of Blue Mask myself. I've tried it on my mate's account, but Green Mask is hella fun, that I can confirm. I've played a good amount with Green Mask. Okay, what are the other 2 decks to look out for? Oh, sorry, something I forgot to mention about Green Mask is the fact that it doesn't run Phoenix, which means, segueing very nicely into our next deck, it can actually deal with it, and that is yellow 2s. So this deck basically was kind of doing a little bit in Forbidden, and then in EX03 just smashed to the top of the meta. But now, you know, it's still really strong. And I think you guys all know what this does. It just spams the board with 2 costs. It makes them really big. If you wipe their board, they get it back with this thing, with Hydrangea. And they've got you know, some very solid late game options in the form of Ambrosius, in the form of people messaging, Wigbind. So yeah, deck's good. Deck is very much very solid. And again, deck codes for all of these are in the description. Okay, the final big deck is Blue Mill. These are the 4 that I would say sit at the top of the meta. They're all pretty much as good as each other, and you can safely rank with any of them. Now Blue Mill, again, this deck really came in EX03, and it is crazy. It's existed before with Enrico itself, but now it's just a whole different ball game. Super consistent, super powerful. Check out gameplay for this deck. I've made a showcase for it, so you can go and have a look at it in action. This build is a bit different, but yeah, fundamentally it does the same thing. Just mills your opponent out, and the second your opponent, once your opponent hits 0 cards in deck at the start of their turn, they lose. So that's all you need to do, and it's you know, it's good. It's bloody good. So another deck to look out for there is Blue Mill. Okay, now onto the sort of tier below, and these are and the next 4 decks are kind of in the same space in that tier below. So first, we'll give White some love here. White Battle Spirits. This deck has really had a very hard time ever since it came out. White went from totally dominant to struggling to stay alive in the top tier. But it's still good. It is still good. It's just a matter of making it surviving to the late game, being able to play your really scary options like Grand Woden, and then your opponent like slowly just beating them down and not letting them do anything. The issue is this deck is a lot worse because so many of the best removal skills are on minions, and they don't really give a shit about having spells. And by the time you're able to get your thing out, they probably already have theirs out. Like the Mask decks will definitely have their stuff out before you have your Grand Woden like up and running, which means that they'll have probably built it to be a bit bigger than your Grand Woden, which was really your only counter to just block it and just remove it that way. And if you can't do that, or if they've got multiple, you're kind of fucked. So yeah. Also, I'm not 100% sure on the interaction, but I'm pretty sure the way it works is if you attack into it and it reactivates, then their ability activates and they can just re-rest you and you won't reactivate. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So you're kind of fucked either way against Green Mask. But yeah, still a decent deck. It's just tough. It's very tough against the top decks in the format. In Legend, anyway. Obviously, these decks get better and better and better the lower down in the rankings you are, and you can probably ladder with any of them down in like gold. Silver and gold you can play whatever you want, basically. Like the decks down there are not super good. Master, you have to start playing some of the top tier stuff, and Legend you have to play top tier because you're only going to be playing against top tier. Okay, White Mask next. This is the worst Mask deck. Somehow I thought it was going to be the best. I was just reading the cards and I was like, every time White does this, every single time I read the cards I go, there's no way this cannot be the best deck, and it just isn't the best deck ever. It's really strong. It's really scary. You read Nemesis 99, and it says, you know, whenever this minion wins a battle against another minion, burn 1. Whenever one of your minions wins a battle against another minion, this minion enters the active state, and this minion cannot be selected as a target for your opponent's card effects. And when morphed, all your minions receive the resurge effect. Oh, sorry, and the following effect for when it wins. So basically, your opponent can't block. Everything you have is attacking and reactivating on your turn. It's so scary. And yet apparently not scary enough. But yeah, it's a deck to try. It's a deck that I've been told is a lot of fun from my friends who have played a lot with it. It's just unfortunately not quite as good as the other Mask decks, though. You know, that's a very high bar, and it's still a very, very strong deck. Like, don't get it twisted here. I know this is a slight tear down from those first 4, but these next 4 are still really good. Okay, next up we are going to have Tree. And this deck has been around for a very long time. You guys should know what it does by now. It's kind of the same thing every time. You ramp up, you play Tree, you rest a whole opponent's board, and you smash tree interface. And that's pretty much the story. It's a little worse now with a few more swoopers prevalent in the format and ways to block it, but it's still really solid. Don't get me wrong, like, it's still really solid, and will easily climb you up to Master and do a good deal of work for you in Master and even Legend. It just, you know, you're not gonna. I don't think if you play this deck, you're gonna be ranking number 1, or even in the top 10, because it's just, you know, it's just not that top tier right now. Definitely was back in Forbidden, but yeah, still a really good deck. And then the final deck to talk about in this next little lump of 4 is going to be Red Battle Spirits. This deck, it got hit hard, and it's gone from the top to, you know, the still top tier, but just a little bit below the best. But it's still really solid. You'll see it's now a Pegasus build. We don't run Golem Summoning. We run Anju. We do some other stuff with it. You run more copies of Pubi, because fundamentally that is the way you are getting off the best card in the deck, which is obviously Seagull Nova, who is mental, so strong. Yeah, you guys know what this deck does by now. It's been around pretty much since the game launched on Global, so I'm sure everyone knows. Unsurprisingly, it is a deck to keep an eye out for. So those are the top 8, really. But there's one other deck I want to point out, and that's purple. So you'll notice there wasn't a purple deck here. Losing Andros really just nuked purple's viability, but there is an anti-meta deck that purple is able to play, and that is this purple Battle Spirit list that relies on, well, doesn't rely on, but there's a very big component of it, is this card, which is Dark Web Nova, which has when summoned, destroy all minions that have received a boost that is not from a core, as well as minions with a when transformed effect. And as a passive, all your opponent's minions cannot be boosted other than by cores. This hard counters mask decks, like really hard counters mask decks, and it can make it very difficult for them to be as good as they usually are. And like once you get this down, like you board wipe them, you can really start gaining advantage, going ahead and just killing them. Of course, if you don't play against a mask deck, you're probably losing. So it's really dependent on how much, what percentage of the matches you play are mask decks. I suspect this is actually going to be quite good in Legend and quite bad in Silver, because there's not going to be that many mask decks in Silver. But definitely a fun deck to try out if you want to go anti-meta for once and see how well you can do, and really making people's lives hell who decided to whale out and get the latest and greatest. So that's it, that's the primer. These are all the decks you should keep an eye out for. Hope you guys enjoyed this video today. If you found it interesting, if you found it helpful, please leave a like, please subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs, would appreciate your help. Check the description, deck codes, discords, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video, hopefully in slightly better recording circumstances. Okay, cheers.